Nick é diretor executivo há 4 anos de uma das escolas de ensino médio, a Summit Tahoma, em São José, na Califórnia, e ele faz parte da rede de Summit Public Schools. E o que eu acho mais bacana da Summit e da gente ter convidado o Nick para vir falar nesse momento tão importante do Transformar, é exatamente, a gente trouxe a Summit, foi o nosso primeiro palestrante do primeiro Transformar, e a Summit estava num processo muito interessante de mostrar que era possível fazer uma educação inovadora, personalizada, quando estávamos começando a falar em educação personalizada, uma educação que combinava o ensino híbrido com uso de tecnologia e não uso de tecnologia, educação baseada em projetos, muita coisa que parecia só possível em escolas assim de redes particulares, caríssimas, etc. E a Summit estava fazendo isso no mundo das escolas públicas, com alunos de baixa renda, na Califórnia, e agora não só aquilo era uma experiência exitosa, interessante, inovadora, mas a Summit virou uma referência, cresceu muito, expandiu esse modelo para mais escolas, tem discutido como fazer isso poder virar uma realidade em muitas escolas fora dos Estados Unidos e que possa servir de inspiração. Então, queria passar a palavra para o Nick para ele poder contar tudo isso para a gente. Obrigado e o palco é seu.
Thank you very much. It sounded very nice, so hopefully I will be very nice. I want to start by saying what an honor it is to be here to speak to you, and how humbled I am to be asked to close out what an inspiring conference. My name is Nicholas Kim, and I'm the executive director of Summit Tahoma, which is a high school that's in California and is a part of a larger network of schools in California and in Washington State. And before we get started on talking about Summit and talking about how the little things, or not the little things, but the big things that you heard from today and how we package it up into one program, I want to start with what we should always be starting with, which are our students. So I want to introduce you to a student of ours named Edgar.
My name is Edgar Anaya, and I'm currently a junior at Summit Prep in Redwood City. I just turned 17 in April. I would say my family's a little bit complicated. My mom had me at 16, so it was like really hard for her. Her and my dad weren't like always connected when I was young. My parents got divorced when I was about 5 or 6, and so it was pretty hard growing up. Before Summit, I went to school at like a regular middle school. There was a lot of older people that were like abusing drugs, and there was like a lot of people that were in gangs. It wasn't a place where I could really thrive. And so my aunts and my uncles have actually been to Summit. All these people around me that were family, they were thriving at Summit. And so my mom wanted the same for me. I feel like at Summit, even on the first day, like a lot of people care about you there. Everyone's a little bit more connected.
I always want to start with students because I always want to remember why I'm in education. I joined education because of students like Edgar. I joined education because in the US right now, our educational system was designed without students like Edgar in mind. They were not present when the conversations about what schools should be like were happening. Those conversations about what schools should be like were all about how do we make sure that students behave the way we want them to and learn the minimum amount possible before sending them out. And so I got into education for that reason. Because I am a product of that educational system, I went to a large traditional public high school in California. And at my school, there were hundreds of students like Edgar. Students who had incredible potential, but maybe didn't have someone there, a guide, to help them when things were hard. Hundreds of students like Edgar who had immense creativity, but nowhere to channel it. Lots and lots of students like Edgar who had dreams and hopes and aspirations, but not a real path to help them get there. And that's actually why I joined Summit 9 years ago. I joined Summit 9 years ago because I believe that schools should be a place that can connect students with their long-term dreams and passions. I believe that not just Summit can do that, but every school is a place where students can actually be set up, where they can walk away with all the things that they need to live the life that they want to. Whatever that life is, that we can set them up to be able to do that. That they have a healthy and productive life. That they have healthy relationships. They are socially and emotionally well taken care of. I believe that this is capable of all students and all schools. And that's because I believe deeply in people. I believe that people want to do good work. And I believe when people have achievable goals in their sights, they will work hard to make those dreams happen. And I firmly believe that if we enable people, if we empower people to reach their goals, amazing things will happen. Which is why I worked at Summit. Summit is an organization of now 11 schools in both California and in Washington State. We serve over 3,000 students, and we are a very diverse set of students. So many, dozens of languages are represented, dozens of cultures are represented, and they live and they work in the same communities, which is what makes our schools really, really amazing places to be. And by most standards, we are doing really well. Our schools are consistently in the top of not only the state of California, but in the US. Our school design actually won an award, a national award by the XQ. And our organization was even named one of the most innovative organizations in America. But all of this really, really great work is really focused around students. Our students graduate in a state of California where only 30% of them are eligible to apply to college. 100% of our students, every single student that we have, graduates eligible to apply to a four-year college. And not only that, 98% of them actually apply and get into at least one. What's even more impressive is actually that of all of those students, our students are graduating from college at double the national rate. At almost 60% of our students actually go to a four-year college and graduate within the 6 years, which is really, really great. Except when you think about the fact that 60% means double the national average, that's not good enough. That's not good enough for me. That's not good enough for my families. That's not good enough for my community. And so we started to really think about, what do we need to do differently? What does our school need to do to make sure that that number turns into 100? And so we did what I think we should all be doing, which is we started with our kids. We really thought, what do students need once they leave us? What does it mean to leave school at 18 and be prepared for whatever it is their future is that they want? And if any of you have ever been in a classroom, which I think you all have, you know that students come at a million different places. And so getting students to their each and a unique path is an incredible challenge, which is why we wanted to really make sure that we personalize the educational experience, that we make this about every single individual student. And so we really rethought the way that we did school. We changed the way that we thought about what do we do at school. And we used 4 elements to redesign how we spend our time and the things that we do. And that first element, the thing that has to be present, is we have to believe that every student is capable of achieving great things. That has to be the starting place. We then have to make sure that teachers are set up to do all of the incredible things that we need teachers to be doing. We need to make sure that we design great schools that are effective and using time effectively. And then we need to make sure that every student and teacher has the tools necessary to support teaching and learning. These are the 4 things and the 4 elements that we use to rethink our schools. So let's start with students. This fundamental belief that every student is capable is critical. Once you believe that, there's a lot of research that exists about how students learn and how they learn best. At Summit, we've been lucky enough to partner with content experts in growth mindset, in responsible decision making, in how to create curriculum. We've been able to partner with all of these people so that the question then became not how do people learn, but what should we prioritize? Oh, I was pressing the wrong button. And so we've decided that we are going to prioritize these 5 distinct things. Every student at Summit needs to leave with these 5 things mastered. The first are skills. Summit is a project-based school, and we are a project-based school because we believe that projects are a great and authentic way for students to engage in real-world tasks and learn real-world skills in the process. I'll give you an example. Our 11th graders in chemistry are engaging in a project called biodiesel. They're learning about what biodiesel is, but not just that they're learning about it, they're actually applying that knowledge. So they went and formed companies. Those companies then actually created biodiesel. They ran experiments on that biodiesel, and then the project that they turned in was a patent application explaining what their biodiesel was and why it was the best biodiesel that you can buy on the market. But in this real task that real scientists do, they are practicing argumentation. They're practicing using evidence, data analysis, and analyzing evidence to support an argument. But these are real-world skills that real people use to solve real problems. And that's something that our students do every single day. We also know it's really important for students to know things. You can't just have a bunch of skills without knowing anything. And this is why it's important, is because anyone can Google who started World War I. But Archduke Franz Ferdinand getting assassinated is a fun trivia question, but it doesn't actually get at the deep content knowledge necessary to know that actually there were larger global effects that were going on that actually contributed to the start of World War I. And we need our students to be critically thinking about what they are learning. We also know that students must have really strong habits once they leave. I told you earlier that 60% of our students almost 60% of our students have graduated from a 4-year college. But if you think about what that actually means, there are lots of students who don't actually graduate. And so when they came back to visit us, the #1 piece of feedback that they would say to us was, we really wish you spent more time focusing on actually building those habits that are going to be important for my learning and for my perseverance. Things like, how do you manage your stress? How do you manage your time? When you have an infinite number of distractions, how do I make sure that I get done the work that I need to get done? How do I navigate complex social situations? How do I collaborate with peers? These are all habits, and they're all habits, luckily, that you can teach. But you need to explicitly be talking and teaching them, and you need to be constantly giving students feedback. And that is something that happens every day at Summit schools. We also know that students need to be setting goals. We know that successful people in the real world set goals and they achieve them. And I'm not talking about the kind of goals that get you to the gym 4 times in January and never again. I'm talking about the kinds of goals that are realistic and that are action-oriented and that are going to help students actually make the future that they want for themselves. But I need students to be thinking about, what am I hoping to achieve? I need students to be reflecting on, this is what I tried last week and it didn't work. So what am I going to do this week that's different? But setting these goals is a critical part of their long-term success. And then finally, they need a credible pathway. They need a real, authentic chance at living the life that they want. And our job at the school is not to create these futures for students. Our job at the school is to connect not only their passions and their interests with who they see themselves in the future, but also to connect what they're doing every single day with what their long-term goals and hopes are for themselves. That's our responsibility. And so I want to take us back to Edgar, because I want to show you what this could potentially look like in a classroom when you're asking students to do all of these things.
I want each and every person to tell me what they plan to accomplish today in our hour and 20 minutes that we have. You know the drill, you know how to do it. I want a name on the board and a goal next to your name for what you're gonna accomplish. With your partner, before you walk up, quickly talk through what do you think your specific goal will be for today. Go.
I'm not going to focus too much on like separating this paragraph, because if I do that, then all my ideas are going to get mixed up and I'm going to get confused. So I'm just going to try and like get my other ideas out and write a third page, and then if I'm done, go back and like fix the things I did. Because if I try to fix them before, I'll get confused for like what I'm going to write like later on.
Let's talk about teachers. At Summit, we have really, really incredible teachers. And we've found that as we are hiring teachers and as we're trying to keep our teachers, there are two major things that we've learned about having a high-quality teacher in every classroom every day. The first is, back to that belief. All of our teachers have to believe that our students are capable of doing the things that we want them to do. They have to believe that. And as an educator myself, I know that sometimes believing that is hard. I know sometimes things don't go exactly the way I want them to. Things are really not going the way that I expected. And so in those moments, it's always important for me to actually talk to a student, because they are the ones who remind me of what is possible when you empower students to take their education for themselves. And so I actually want to show you a video clip of something that I find really inspiring of Edgar talking about his own education.
Self-directed learning is important for college, because in college, your teacher's not always going to be over your shoulder. You're going to have classes with like 500 people. A long-term goal of mine that I've had since I was in middle school was like applying to Stanford. I've always wanted to get higher education. I think through Summit, I'm able to do that. And so in the long run, when I'm older and I'm able to make like the money I want to make, I can give back to like the people that gave back to me, like my mom and my dad. Right now, I'm interested in entrepreneurship and sustainable fashion. So I want to like focus more on calculus.
Edgar is an incredible young man. He's able to talk about what he's working on, what he's prioritizing, how it's going to help them in the future, and how it's connected to what his long-term goals and dreams are. He's incredible. And those are the kinds of conversations that we encourage students and teachers to have every single day, because those are the things that inspire people. But belief is not enough. We know that good teaching requires professional development. We know that it requires constant support for teachers to actually create classrooms that students like Edgar come out of. That requires a lot of teacher preparation. And so at Summit, with that in mind, we've actually have 50 days, 50 days of professional development for every single teacher. And like students, this is a personalized experience. So it's not I'm telling my teachers what they need to be working on, but it's teachers deciding what is their area of focus and how can I support them in their learning and their growth. How will I know that they've achieved their goals, and what are the things that I can do to support that? And on top of that professional development, each teacher is given a coach that actually, throughout the school year, checks in with them and guides them through that process. Because we know that those behaviors don't actually just come out magically. They need time and they need support in order to make that happen. We also need to be designing great schools. And this is where changing schools is actually the hardest. Because in my experience, it's been that people understand and acknowledge that schools aren't working for every single student, but for some reason they hold on to their experience in high school or their experience in school, and that because that's familiar and that's the one that they know. This is actually, I think, one of the hardest parts of creating a personalized learning experience for every student. And so we've thought about 2 major changes in our reflection, and this has required a lot of work to make happen. The first is this concept of time. One of the biggest things that we've tried to change is this idea that time is the thing that is fixed. Let me tell you what I mean by that. In my traditional high school upbringing, what every class looked like the teacher introducing a topic. The teacher might give 2, 3, 4 lectures. He might have some classwork and some homework. And then he would say, everyone on Friday, you're taking the test. And if you were ready, great. And if you're not ready, too bad. And then on Monday, we'd start a brand new thing, start a brand new topic. And then maybe like a month later, you get your test back. And in red ink, it says, good work, 79%. And that was it. But if you stop to think about what that 79% represents, for me, it's kind of scary, because what that 79% represents is that every percentage point away from 100 means that that's another thing that I didn't learn. That was another thing that I didn't show that I knew. And maybe on that one test, that's fine, but when you add that up, times 12 years of school in the US, that means I didn't learn a lot of things. But the only thing that's consistent here is the time. The teacher tells you this is when it happens. The teacher tells you you need to learn it by this. And then the teacher moves on. And if you didn't learn it by then, that's too bad. What we're saying at Summit is we need to change that. We need to actually say, no. The learning is required. The learning is fixed. If you need more time, that is something that I can give you. Because I'm not going to let you off the hook by only learning 72% of that. I'm not going to let you just get away with that. That learning is fixed, but the time, if you need an extra day, okay, let's work on a plan to make sure that you get it turned in on the next day. But that is a big notion that we're trying to switch. The second thing that we've been really focusing on in our change has been, how do we use teacher time? How do we change the way that we think about what teachers are doing? And I'll give you 2 examples. The first is, because we are a project-based school, teachers aren't at the front of the classroom lecturing for an hour every class period, and the students sitting there quietly while they listen and take notes. That's not what's happening anymore. What's happening is our students are working by themselves, or they're working in pairs, or they're working in groups, and they're working on these really rigorous projects. But what happens when the teacher isn't up at the front talking all at the same time is that they're able to actually sit down next to a kid and work with them side by side on that project. They're able to, in the moment, say, you're working on this essay, great, let me give you some feedback so that you can use it and apply it for the future. They're able to say, you know what, you 4 kids haven't really mastered this thing yet, and so I'm going to actually grab you now and work with you on this specific thing, so while the rest of the students are working on something else. But it maximizes the resource of the teacher, because no technology can get rid of the teacher. We need to set our teachers up to do what they do best, which is to be present with kids. That is what we need. The second way we change the way that teachers use time is by how they build strong relationships with kids. I've always been a strong believer that a good relationship with a student is going to help you push them to their absolute potential. Without a good relationship, it makes everything else significantly harder. In my high school experience, I didn't get to know my teachers very well. And that wasn't because they were bad, it was because they had 40 kids in a class, and they had to get to know almost 300 kids each. That is not an easy thing to be able to do. At Summit, we've flipped that. We've said, no, you need to prioritize getting to know your kids, because if you don't know your kid, you don't know what they need, and then you won't be able to push them where they need to go. And so every student at Summit actually gets a one-on-one check-in with their mentor every single week for 10 minutes, where they can talk about their social emotional well-being, where they can set goals, where they can reflect on the week and what went well and what did they struggle with, so they can get to know and build these strong relationships. And we found that because of this, students and teachers have a better relationship than they've ever had before, because students feel like they are more connected, not only to their school, but to their teachers, because they can rely on that conversation every single week. And I actually want to show you a little bit of Edgar in one of those one-on-one mentoring conversations.
Having a strong connection with somebody at school who deeply knows you and knows your family and knows your goals is really important. We work towards accomplishing those goals through our daily actions and behaviors.
My mentor, Miss Ching, she means like everything.
For this project, it's due today by 3:20, right? So can you talk me through like what your priorities are as you go through the day? So like first block, or for the rest of this block, what are you gonna work on? And then for block 2 and block 3?
I have to pass content assessments.
Is this your goal?
And then I think like after that, I'm probably just gonna work on my essay.
There's been a lot of tough things that have happened to me throughout high school, and she's been there for me.
Like the thing is, I want to get all my work done today, because like tomorrow I'm going to a concert with Alexandra, and I want it to be like stress-free, the Macklemore concert in San Francisco. And so I don't want to go like thinking I could have done work yesterday and I didn't, but then like I just need to get all my work done today, so then I don't have stress tomorrow, and I don't have a lot of stress next week.
And then are you happy with your grades as they stand right now?
No, not really.
Okay, we have one more week of school, so what are things that you need to do next week to make sure that you're happy with your grades by the end of the week?
Just trying to pass like all my power focuses, so that like the last Friday I can pass additionals, and then I'm also gonna come in the summer. So like
Just that 1 week though, right?
yeah, just like for 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
Edgar's got his priorities right. He wants to go to the concert. But what you just saw there was a real connection between a student and a teacher, where you got to see not only does the teacher care about him and his academics, but also cares about him as a student. And that's incredibly important, and we know that it is. And finally, we know that we need to have tools. We need to have tools that support the teaching and learning process. We need to support teachers in making sure that they know where every student is at any given moment, and help them track the progress that they have over time. And we're lucky I live in Silicon Valley, where technology is used everywhere, and we have had really great success in making partnerships with other organizations. And so we have these tools that are, at any notice, give students what they need to know how to prioritize their time and what they should be working on, and give teachers what they need to know where every kid is at any given moment. And let's actually watch Katie talk about the tool, which we call the PLP tool.
The PLP tool is essential to my life. It's really easy to sort data and identify areas of need. I can look at all the 10th graders and see, okay, right now they're really struggling in math content. There's just countless data that I could look at to help me really strategically spend my time. Right now, this morning, I'm gonna go look through student work to prepare for my class periods today. I try to be very intentional about the way I spend my time. I had students a couple weeks ago fill out a survey about their grades as they stand right now. So they looked through their cognitive skills scores, and they saw what their lowest cognitive skills scores were. And they chose to either do a procedure revision, meaning they need to revise the skill of designing processes and procedures, or they chose to do a final mini Socratic seminar where they're going to discuss the ethics of genetics. So I'm going to go into the PLP, and this is the project for the genetic ethics. I'm going to go to his specific class section. I have him in the morning today, so it's Tuesday, Thursday, block 2. And I'm just going to look for his name. His document is already linked in here. And I'm going to click to see so far what he's worked on. And so I'm going to go through here and give him feedback. At the bottom of his document is the rubric. He didn't self-assess his work yet, but here's the rubric of the skill I'm grading for this specific document. So I'm going to give him just some comments in his document right now, or sometimes if it's a small enough group of students, I just look at general trends. Like all of these students are missing annotation. I can literally go in and just put in a score for where it is at that moment. That way it's like very real-time feedback.
And so that's the work that we do every day at Summit. That's what gets me out of bed every morning, is that I know that I work for an organization that puts students first and isn't afraid to take risks. And the weird thing is, as we've been doing this work, people have started to notice. And one of those people was actually Mark Zuckerberg, and he came to one of our schools and he visited and he said, "I wish I went to a school like this." And then he said, what are we doing to actually make sure that we are trying to personalize education for as many students as possible in the US? And this is actually where the idea of the Summit Learning Program was born. Summit not only runs its own schools, but we, 2 years ago, started a program where we provided the tools and resources and support necessary to show other schools and school districts how to personalize learning in classrooms across the US. And in its first year, it had 19 schools, had about, in 10 different states, over 2,000 students, which we thought was really, really great. This year, in its second year, we're at about 132 schools, serving over 1,000 teachers and over 20,000 students in 27 different states in the US. And our hope is that we are going to continue to partner with more and more schools to actually provide that personalized learning experience for every student. And we're committed. We're all in. We want to make sure that every student has access to a personalized learning experience, because no two students are the same. And so we need to make sure that we actually help them connect what do they want for themselves in the long term with what are they doing today, right now. And we're all in on that. And I want to close this talk with reminding you of why we do the things that we do. At Summit, and for me personally, we have really, really amazing teachers with lots of professional development. We have a school system and structure where we use the time effectively, and it's aimed towards student success. We have amazing people who believe in our students, and we have tools that support them in their teaching and learning. But this is all because what we want is to support every student, because we believe in every student. And we want to make sure that what they want for their long-term futures is what we are helping prepare them for today, so that we can make that connection for them, so that every day is about a real opportunity to learn something that will help them later. And I want to thank you again for sharing the time with me today. It has been an absolute privilege to be here in front of you. Thank you very much for everything, and I hope that you leave remembering all of the Edgars in all of your schools and the futures that they all deserve. So thank you.